This is Sydney Dash. Today I'm doing my digital presentation. The title of my presentation is called Society's Dilemma with Health and Responsiveness. This is for COM 616, Queen's University of Charlotte. So just a couple of things I'm going to cover today. So I'm going to talk about healthcare communication, the study of communication practices with the broad domain of healthcare. I'm going to talk about actual care, which is when a human answers to the call of someone else, a willingness to meet and attend someone else's needs other than their self. Responsiveness, which is a responsibility that meets the call of the other. Even sometimes when the call is unwanted, it's important for both parties. And lastly, I will cover the dialogic learning approach as well. So the purpose of the study is about ethical issues concerning mental health and the main problems and how we as a society should address the issue. The goal is to build a foundation and bring awareness about people who suffer from mental health, and also we're going to cover different relationships that could help somebody with mental health and how that person should take actions as well as far as seeking for help and just making sure they're not a danger to themselves. So the case study in the film that I decided to use was The Joker. It was written in 2019. So The Joker is pretty much an American psychological thriller. Most people know The Joker as being evil and malicious and getting enjoyment from hurting other people. But this version actually focuses on Arthur Fleck, who does turn out to be the Joker. He suffers from a uncontrollable laughing condition. He does carry a medical card. But there's a series of events that takes place to where society has treated him poorly, and it results him to act out violently. So just to go over a couple of them, at the very beginning, he was beat up by a couple of kids just because he looked funny or he was laughing out loud, and they didn't understand why. They didn't try to understand why, and they just beat him up just because it was fun. He was hurt. He was, he felt belittled and he felt bullied and beat up, which he really was. Another event that took place, which was one of the more important ones throughout the movie, it was a situation on the train station. These three businessmen, they were attacking this woman, and he started laughing uncontrollably just because he was nervous about the situation. They came, they bothered him. He tried to show them his medical card. They ripped it up and continued beating him up. He had a gun. He shot the three businessmen just out of self-defense. But as you can see, they bothered him first. And he felt, again, attacked. So each of the situations that occurred in the movie, somebody always provoked him first, or judged him first, or treated him differently, or bullied him, or told him he was worthless. There was a lot of times that he was attacked and he felt like the only thing he could do was act violently. Then he would get some type of reaction. It wasn't necessarily the best reaction, but in his mind, reaction is reaction, no matter if it's good or bad, and that's how he saw it versus being a nobody. So I think that's really important, things that we need to cover throughout the presentation. So some of the findings that I found were that people who suffer from mental health issues require excessively more care and responsiveness, not only from themselves but from society as well. According to this article, taking time seriously, research on mental health focuses on a multitude of dynamic processes, including changes in psychological symptoms or on the onset of a mental disorder. I also did my research on the stress process theory, which was developed by Leonard Perlin. It consists of 4 stages, which is a demand, which can be physical, psychological, or cognitive, an appraisal of demand, and a negative response, as well as it can affect behavior and performance. So I think that is important relating to Arthur. I think his stress levels were really high depending on the events that took place. So I think that is a real theory that takes place, and I think his actions that he took behind each event that took place resulted in negative behavior. I've also learned that care, responsiveness, and interpersonal relationships are all critically concerning mental health, that person needs both emotional and physical support. I'm going to talk later on about the relationships that he built as far as the therapist and his mother. Those are valuable relationships that could have been improved and were very, very critical to his mental condition. The practices towards mental health care are debatable about what should be prioritized within relationships. So you can't really point out what relationship is the most important. I think they all play an important factor depending on the scenario, but it's hard to prioritize what should be first, what should be second, what should be important here and versus there. So I definitely think that's important. So some of the solutions I came up with was most of the events uh, led to violence. He was treated poorly by society and the important people in his life. We need to bring awareness to mental health. This will help with the lack of responsiveness. We need to ensure that our medical professionals show that they care and have the knowledge to treat mental health patients. So just to point out everything, the public figures as far as the mayor and Murray, they have a platform that they can spread information through, and they lack care and lack responsiveness as far as Arthur's mental health. The therapist, she also lacked interpersonal responsibility as far as trying to show that Arthur needed help more than just him asking for medicine or telling him that he's worthless or telling him that nobody cares about people like them. So she definitely lacked her interpersonal responsibility as far as being a therapist to him. It's a mental doctor for him, so she should have took her job more seriously. And lastly, I also think his mother, that's another important relationship, as far as being a family member, that's important. You want to have that type of support from somebody, who knows you. But her thing was she also suffered from a mental illness. So it wasn't really clear to her for her to come out and admit that her child had a mental illness as well. And sometimes that blocks emotions on both parties. Sometimes you just don't really want to talk about it. And for her, I think she wanted to see her son happy. And that's what she would tell him. No matter what happens, how it's happening, you always stay strong and be happy. You just have to deal with it. It's just the world's not a nice place. But telling somebody that the world is not a nice place isn't a way to handle it. And you need to make sure your child is protected and is getting the proper treatment that he should. For some of the implications, so someone who's a public figure, their fans or their audience may take the message the wrong way. So going back to the mayor, his message about mental health, the public may take it as, are you prioritizing that over other health issues? So it could backfire as far as trying to shine special attention on mental health. I think it's something that needs to be covered, but it doesn't need to be perceived as most important over everything else. I think as far as the therapist, with my solution for her, it was to be more engaging with her client, take it more seriously. The only thing that can possibly go wrong in that scenario is that she prescribes him more medicine and he gets more addicted to the prescription versus actually trying to naturally work out his problems. So that could result in him becoming, a drug addict. Lastly, I think the family member, it is important for the victim. That person may not want professional help or to cover a topic like that, maybe just want to be a shoulder to lean on. Sometimes there are family members that are not suitable to help with the problem due to emotion. So they actually could say some things and make the person with the mental issue act out of violence as well, just because, they don't want to feel like they're being attacked. And I also think if research is not done correctly about a person with a condition, you diagnose them with something that they don't have, that person could act out violently. So those are a couple of things that could happen if the solutions I provided don't work out. So after covering everything, so a couple of my suggestions for future research. First, social media is a great platform to use when you need to target a large crowd. You have Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. All of those are so important, and people are constantly on their cell phones. I think creating websites or making a web page about mental health awareness, just showing what actions that society can take instead of, just turning a blind eye or treating them, weird just because they lack that knowledge of what they're supposed to do. I think that will help. Celebrities, a lot of people have listen to celebrities. They have a great influence on the community. So I think getting celebrities and other doctors to use their platform and informing others, driving information that most people are unaware of will help a lot. As far as professionals, therapists, they should do more research concerning mental health issues and learn the severity of the case to determine what actions should be taken. And I think that's just common sense. I think it helps in general, as well as, spreading that information to somebody who lacks that knowledge.